Welcome back to the Radical Moderate podcast. I am your host, Pat O'Brien. And for those of you who listened last week, we are picking up with the remarkable story of serial entrepreneur John Mautner, who, when you left us on the cliff, you had this vision for global domination of your roasted nuts, and you had kind of taken over Orlando. And I say that not with too much arrogance. You were already you had started with the Orlando Magic basketball arena, but then Disney got jealous that somebody had something they didn't have, and you're now in Orlando. So you're going to have to go back and listen to last week's episode if you want to know how he got into Orlando. But you've got these stands, and go ahead and describe again what they are, but then take us, what happens next to build this company that you founded?
Well, the cart itself, if you can imagine, is about 6 feet by 3 feet. It has a copper kettle with a flame underneath it, and the almonds are roasted right there. So they're mixed around with cinnamon, sugar, vanilla, and they're spun around, and then they're poured out, and the scent of the cinnamon fills the air within 100 feet of the cart, which is a big selling point. But then you pour the almonds out, they're all hot, and then you bag them up and sell them. They're golden brown and crispy and delicious and crunchy and
by the way,
amazing.
I'm now wondering, where are my samples? Like, I'm looking, there's nothing on the table, but
well,
as it may.
I like to torture you, Pat. It's okay.
Yeah, well, now I got to go get the product.
That's
you know what you're doing. Okay, so you've kind of, and I'm not even kidding, you've kind of conquered Orlando, which you had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Where does it go next, though? Because you're doing all this kind of by yourself at this point in the story.
I mean, I really am. I mean, I'm ordering, I'm hiring, I'm firing, I'm training, I'm building carts, I'm dealing with supply chain and accounting functions, and really just everything, and working a lot, But after about 2 years, I've got these locations up and running, and I'm actually making some money, and I'm in these theme parks. What's interesting about being in the theme parks, and especially Orlando, which was almost an accident why I ended up there, but I just felt it was the right thing to do. But the payoff about Orlando was that there's about 40 to 50 million people a year from all corners of the globe that come there with their families for vacation. I mean, the Universal Studios, Disney World is like a huge global draw. It is shocking how many people, tens of millions of people from around the world, want to go to Orlando.
Sure.
Okay. So every day, people would see my carts from all corners of the globe. And without me even saying, anything to them about what I was doing, people would approach me from multiple countries and cities around the US and North America, South America, and they would say, I saw your cart. I would get a call from people saying, I saw your cart. I saw the long line of people all day long. We tried the product. It's golden brown, crunchy, and delicious. I've never seen this before. And actually, I want to get a cart. How do I get a cart? How do I buy one? And it didn't occur to me that people would react like that. But I had the vision initially that someday they will be roasted nut carts all over the world. Literally, that sentence is what I thought about all the time. Roasted nut carts all over the world. That was my mantra. That was a vision that maybe was somehow planted in my brain that I wanted to chase down. And somehow by putting that out there, people connected to it. Don't ask me how it works, but it did. Okay. So every single day, I would get a phone call from like Seoul, South Korea, London, England.
Oh my God.
From Dallas, Texas, from, all over the globe. People were calling me on a daily basis saying, I saw the cart. How do I get one of these? And I sort of had to respond to them. So there's a couple approaches I could take. One is I could just continue. I have 6 or 7, I think 7 locations in Orlando at that time. And I'm company owned all of them. I had employees and payroll and all this stuff I had to do. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to open one up in Seoul, South Korea, who do I know in Seoul, South Korea I can trust that's going to love it, pay attention to it, do a great job every day, and manage it successfully and not steal? It's all cash business. They're not stealing the product or money. I mean, who do I know? And the answer is, I don't know anybody in Seoul, South Korea. So taking a company-owned approach was not going to work. It just simply would be, in my opinion, a complete disaster. I know there are people that own lots of locations that are company-owned, but it just wasn't something realistically I could do on an international basis, or even go out of Orlando, step out of Orlando. It's going to be lots of problems. So that wasn't the approach I took. What do you think the approach I did take, though, to go out and expand and scale?
Well, my loyal listeners know that I grew up a McDonald's franchisee and I'm currently a Sonic franchisee. So
Right.
I'm hoping that you decided to become the franchisor.
Yes, I became the franchisor, and I actually built a business in a box. So for $25,000, the cart would come crated, fully assembled. There was everything you need, all the utensils, cleaning supplies, your startup supply of my secret cinnamon and sugar syrup that came in a gallon container. It's cinnamon, sugar, and vanilla, but I can't. Don't tell anybody because I'll have to kill you. And all starter supply of almonds. And I sold them the equipment. I sold them the packaging. I helped them with location assistance to get open. I would include training. They paid a royalty on all the sales of the product. And I just sort of put the business in a box, and I started shipping carts to different people that wanted to get them. And the cart would arrive fully assembled. You uncrate it, plug it in, and you're in business. It's that simple.
And they had to figure out the location part of it.
I would help them do that, but I wanted to focus on the niche I was in. Now, what makes stadiums, theme parks, arenas so good?
Well, I loved what you said in the last episode is you've got people who are already spending a lot of money. They're trying to have a good time.
Yep.
And it's very dense. It's very, and it's dense for a short period of time. At least in the Orlando Magic Stadium.
Right, the games.
Epcot,
High
it's all
compression
day
in a
long.
few hours, right? Yes.
So yeah, you got to find those kind of places. Like, what's an example of one of the first one or two outside of Orlando where these things were placed?
So I was at the cart at Universal Studios. I don't know why I remember this, but I was at the cart with my apron on, roasting a batch of almonds, and this couple walks up to me and they say, "We've been spying on you for the last 2 days." I'm like, "Well, thank you, but what does that mean?" He goes, "We live in Rio de Janeiro, and we've been looking at this, and we've never seen this before, and we think this will be very successful in Rio, and I want to get a cart." So I'm like, okay. So she bought a cart. I shipped it. Helped her get into a location. And she really became sort of my first franchise operator that I ever had, And, the thing about, and I had no idea whether it would go well internationally. It seems to go well in Orlando, but will people in Texas, Seoul, South Korea, Rio de Janeiro, will they like it? Well, funny enough, they loved it. And so, when you have a product that seems to be universally appealable, people love it. Why not just take advantage of the market and get really specific on the niche? So I started just franchising the carts, but our niche was stadiums, theme parks, and arenas. I had very good experience. As you say, high compression. In a matter of 3 hours, there might be 80,000 people for a soccer game in Rio, or 30,000 people for a hockey game or basketball game. So you have people for a short duration of time, happy to spend money. They're there, they're willing to have a good time, et cetera, et cetera. Theme parks are great. They're open every single day, 10 or 12 hours a day. They never close. They get tons of traffic. For instance, at Epcot Center, there were literally 10 million people a year walking by my cart.
That's wild.
Where can I get that kind of international exposure? And because so many people from around the world saw the cart, it really fueled the franchise business. So I built a business in a box. I started franchising it. And over the next 5 years, I had roasted nut carts all over the world. Now, when I started with my first cart, it was failing. 5 years later, I have roasted nut carts all over the world. Now, what was the one thing I was doing? It was the vision and the statement of roasted nut carts all over the world. I don't want to get esoteric, but I do think if you think about something long enough and you believe in it and you take action, you can accomplish practically anything. I'm sort of a living example of that.
You really, I mean, I've heard people say, speak it into existence and this sort of thing. And I think I think it can go both ways. I mean, if you're reading a book and somebody's telling you just think positive and all that, I mean, that's one thing. But to kind of talk about, what I want the radical moderate to be about, it is saying to yourself, if I believe in something strong enough, if there's a market for it, and that's the big if, because there's a lot of people who I'm not going to have on my podcast because they tried and failed so many times. And my father's an example of that. He was an entrepreneur. I don't think I would have told you would know this. He had a popcorn machine when he was a teenager, and there was a little softball park down the street. And when he wasn't running it, he'd pay his brothers to run it, and he had a nice little business.
Sure,
I'm a wannabe entrepreneur in that regard, but he didn't get. His big opportunity was not when he was 16 years old with a popcorn machine. His big opportunity was 47 years old, answering a phone call from someone who said, "Have you ever heard of McDonald's?" Mm-hmm. That's all he needed to know. He's like, I'm in, because he had the skill set. Yes. And I think that, here's a question before the Nutty Bavarian.
Right.
Did you have something similar, or did you just strike it with the very first venture? Because that's the odd part of your story.
I think I struck it with the very first venture. Prior to that, I thought I need to sort of get a job, be in corporate America, but the concept, or just work for someone. But I just felt like underneath all that, I kind of felt like I'm going to go work my ass off for somebody. They're going to get rich, and I'm just going to be an employee and never benefit from what I'm really worth. So why am I doing this to myself? Well, I got married and I need a job, and it sounded cool, so I took the job. But I also felt like there's something wrong with working for someone else.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do it for myself, and fail or not fail, I can benefit from that experience and challenge myself. And, it's not for everybody. People feel like that's safe. It's safe to have a 9 to 5. I got kids, I got bills, I got blah, 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 whatever the heck that is. And I just saw through all that and realized that, I'm not going to spend my life working for someone else. I'm 26. I've got to try. In the worst case, all right, I really tried, and fine, I'll go back to work with somebody else. But I was never going to be able to pay myself what I thought I was worth working for someone else. And I just felt that for some reason. But prior to starting the Nutty Bavarian, I had just had jobs.
Yeah.
All kinds of jobs.
Doing what you thought you're supposed to do. And by the way, I think it's always been like this, but I would say in today's economy where you have AI, it's omnipresent, and it's clearly going to change industries. There's not really a safe path. People who were in tech 30 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe even during COVID, they were so in demand, and everybody's got to have them. And now the market has turned. Capitalism it's been disruptive, and now they're like, hey, with AI, we can get code monkeys and all these people to do the job. And to me, that's the beauty of capitalism, the destructive nature of it.
Sure.
I think though, what you did, I think people make their own luck. You got a little lucky that the very first big entrepreneurial play, there was a market for that.
Right,
but here's a question. Actually, for those who didn't listen to part 1, you talked about how as a kid, you were mixing the ingredients and doing your own stuff. Do you attribute that? Were you born with that? Was there some parental influence going on? A neighbor who was a chef? Like what? How did this get started?
No, I mean, I actually, if I look back at my history, my family history, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I wasn't really aware of that fact at 10 years old, but I found out I was, my dad was a college professor, and he took that path, in which, college professors don't make a lot of money, but, you get tenure and it's secure, and that's what he did, he did well, but I mean, I've just inherently thought, and even when I'm 6 years old in a classroom, 12 years old in junior high school, I'm looking out the window going, for God's sakes, can they teach me something I could use out there? Because I don't feel like anything I'm learning in this classroom is going to benefit me in the real world. And I wanted to get out in the real world and learn about it, not in the classroom, but applying yourself and challenging yourself to try things. I'm always about trying things. What's the worst possible thing can happen? It didn't work. But I think there's a lot of value in just experimenting and trying something. Now, do I recommend everybody quit their job today and start a business? I would. Okay, if you have a niche product and you get it in front of customers, millions of them that don't care what it costs, and you really believe in what you're doing. It's so hard to do what we do that if we don't fully love it and fully believe in it, you'll never make it through, But I felt like I was having so much fun just running down the dream. In any case, going back to
well, what I was going to say, when we were talking about looking out the window at the school, it brings me back to a couple episodes I've done prior to this, 2 different ones actually. So I think this is my second episode was on public education, and I was on the school board at one time, and just how I don't think the business model works. I think the model is broken, and that sort of thing. But then fast forward into I forget which episode it was, but I did an episode about a book called The Element, and it's the premise of the book is there's a lot of different kinds of intelligence, easily a dozen, but the author theorizes there might be as many as 100.
Right.
And I was picturing you, John, in that classroom, and whatever they were trying to sell you, you weren't buying, but you had all these other talents and skills. But the public education system where it's like, here, you've learned, we have taught you geometry, which is what we told the public we would do.
Right.
You must now take this test on geometry to prove that we did our job. And you're just like, I don't know anything about this and could care less, but yet you did, because otherwise they're going to expel you. And I think,
Well, I have to admit that I was a C- D student most of my career.
Perfect.
I was, it's funny is that, the A students work for the C students. I don't know if you knew that or not, but they do.
It's the same thing. I think they say the A students in law school become judges and the C students become rich. So it all worked out. I want to touch, I want to go down the road of some of these individual stories. You mentioned a couple from Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
And the frame I want to put it in is when that phone call came to my father, it completely changed his life. But guess what? It completely changed my life, and the opportunities I've been given.
Yeah.
I think in the franchise model specifically, I know that at one time, I don't know if the statistic is still true, but at one time, McDonald's, the franchise system in McDonald's created more individual millionaires than anything in the history of the world. And I don't know what kind of stats you have for the Nutty Bavarian, but I'm sure you've got some stories of some individual people who, had you not intervened, they would have had a much different situation.
Sure.
Give us an example or two, if you will.
So I'll just go back to because you mentioned the Brazilian franchise operator. Got her a cart, sent it down there, she got her open, and we opened at the Rio de Janeiro airport. Why are airports good? Millions of customers, captive audience, nobody cares what it costs. Those are some of the criteria for going in there. She opened up, and it was just an immediate success. People love the product. Over the next 30 years, because she's been in business over 30 years, she has now 500 locations throughout Brazil. And she's really built 500 carts. You want to talk about building wealth? I mean, she has a company that is doing several $100 million a year. And so it has made her a millionaire. It has made other people's millionaires. I mean, you get enough carts going, you really can have a great lifestyle. It's, you can build wealth through your business. Anyway, so it's it's about finding people that get it. And initially in the beginning, I never advertised, get a cart, carts for sale, franchise, whatever. I never even thought about that. But people were approaching me saying, how do I get a cart? So the franchise path is what I took. I started buying the company that built all our carts. Mm-hmm. We were their biggest customer. We started designing and building our own copper kettle machines, roasted nut machines. It just seemed to make sense, right? We became one of the largest almond consumers in the country. We never actually, and people would always say, why didn't you go into retail? Like put them in little jars and put them on shelves at grocery stores.
Wait, I think I know the answer. Could it be because this is a product that you have to have the sensory perception because the scent of cinnamon is flowing through the air?
Potent, yes, exactly. Potent. Eventually that happened, where we would have little packages in grocery stores, but that was decades later. It was focusing on the niche and the business. Make everything fresh right in front of people, be friendly, be fast, give them a sample, follow the steps of service. People are staring at the kettle looking like this, explain the roasting process, engage the customer in what's going on. Even if it's for 10 seconds, engage them a little bit. And you'll get a customer that will come back again and again and again. It's interesting for stadiums and arenas, the same people come back, year after year, game after game. They have season tickets. So they walk up to the cart and go, give me 2, give me 3. I know what they are. I don't need a sample. Just give me some, right? But at theme parks, you have a new group of people every single day going through. So that produced a lot of international exposure. And being in Orlando, I think, was the key factor. If I had gone to Tampa, Florida, I don't think it would have been much slower to get the kind of traction I got by just simply on a whim pulling off the highway and going to Orlando and just saying that's where I'm going to be. Sometimes trusting yourself, not questioning every little thing, just, any mistake that I've ever made, trust me, I've made some big ones, but it's because I didn't listen to my gut, about what feels right and what doesn't feel right. Virtually anything in business or in personal life has not worked out because I wasn't true to myself. And how some of you have that little voice in your head?
Oh, yeah.
I listen to that all the time. I just call it my gut sense. But if something feels really right, follow it. If it doesn't, don't do it. And I think we need to tap into that intuition or whatever it is. And maybe it's just the universe bumping you along a little bit to put you in the right spot to help you down the road. You don't even know it at the time. But that was a decision that it's almost like spur of the moment, 1 second decision, pull off the road and go to Orlando and open up a roasted nut cart.
It worked out. It worked out. So
you asked me, is there a magic to it? I don't know. But I think people need to be more brave and get out of their own way and trust their intuition, whether it's anything in their personal or professional life. I don't want to seem morbid, but none of us get out of here alive.
Sure.
So you have a very limited time frame to be here. So think about every single day what you can do to make something happen, whatever it is. Learn something new, try something new, experiment. You don't have to quit your job if you have a job, but you try and do something on nights and weekends. Like your dad had that popcorn cart, right? I mean, he seemed to have the same kind of thing I have, which was, I want to make people happy and I think it'd be fun. And why don't we just try it and sell popcorn, right? You probably would ask your dad, why did you go do that? But it's because it felt right.
Yeah. It's all of that. I mean, just going back to my dad for a second, he was the guy when we would travel, we had to stay in a hotel that had a bar because my mom was like tired and she's got kids and all that. And I'm youngish, 8 years old or something. My dad had that need for social interaction. He wanted to go down, sit at the bar. He's traveling. He wants to meet people, wants to have conversations. Sure. He didn't know who might change his life and that sort of thing. And I think I love your message there. We've got a few minutes left.
Sure, no problem.
But want to close the book on the Nutty Bavarian
Yeah.
and then talk about a couple things real quick. You did sell out at one point. How long
Yeah.
had you been in, and what year did you actually sell out of the
I
company?
started in 1990. By 1996, I had built this business, and I had a bit of a management team, and I took on a partner that bought half the company from me. I was literally working 100 hours a week. I wasn't spending time at home. I'm traveling, opening roasted nut carts, working with the franchise operators, just building this sort of, I felt like I was building an airplane while I'm flying it. I think I need a wing and I need a co-pilot and I need an engine. And it's sort of like that for years. But when you do that, when you get something, you have to give something up. And I think I gave up a lot of things with my kids. I was just not home, and my marriage sort of dissolved itself because I am putting everything, the only thing that I was focused on was building the business. And I realized that, as cool as that is and great as that is, there's a cost to doing that. Mm-hmm. So I had to have sort of throttled that back. Well, I started spending more time with my kids. I decided I think I need to sell the company. Now, at that time, we had about 500 locations. And I sold the business. And frankly, I made enough money where I could have sat on the beach, frankly, probably for the rest of my life and done nothing. I couldn't do that. Like today, there's 5,500 locations. The same management team I put into place, they've just over the last 20 years plus have 10x'd it.
Wow.
And it's great. It's great. Now people are saying, well, why did you do that? I think I got bored, to be honest with you. I'm a builder. I like building things. I like from the ground up. I like making things happen. Once the ship is sailing, it's up and running. For whatever reason, I just feel like there's more to do. So and that's what happened.
Yeah. And what year was that final?
It was about 1995, 96.
So you were only in the business for
like 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I always want to be truthful with my audience. And I think it was the first part of the episode that I called this a remarkable story. And that is, and I don't think we're probably not going to have time today to get into what you've done for the rest of your life.
But I did make my mission in the last 25 years to help entrepreneurs build very profitable companies, very high growth businesses. I built one of the 500 fastest growing companies in America. I mean, system-wide sales exceeded 100 million in 5 years. Like, people are asking me just briefly, how did I do that? I thought, that's important. Why don't I spend some time doing that? And I just have been doing that for a long, long time. I sort of feel like I've become an accidental business coach. But 1,000 companies later, I have helped them find a better path to get to where they want to go. Roasted nuts was great. It was fun. It made me a successful person. And it's been in business over 30 years. It's like never ending. That's great. But how can I do something more meaningful to help others build businesses and be successful? Because when I got to experience what I did and share that with others and they get to experience it, it's life-changing in a lot of ways. I don't ever think a bag of almonds is going to change everybody's life. It's fun, it's a snack food, etc. But really what's most important, if you take a business that is trying to get going or just plateauing or slowing and you get them on the right path, they do a few things that dramatically changes it. That's extremely life-changing for those business owners. So I've been doing a lot of that amongst a whole bunch of other things.
I know you're a pretty open and accessible guy. Tell us your website if somebody wants to kind of figure out, they want to just reach out to you, maybe just get some advice. What is that website again?
So it's learncosi.com. COSI is the Cycle of Success Institute. And I developed a 1-year structured program that entrepreneurs go through month by month by month, and they absolutely transform their businesses, and so it's learncosi.com is the website.
Well, anybody who's interested, and I with my audience, I never know exactly, do they want to hear about business? They want to hear about politics and public policy. Where I'll end the show this week, and again, thank you for being on. I've enjoyed this. I think there's so many different threads that are getting tied together here because it really struck me the way you described your school experience. And, at that point, through the production line, the factory assembly line of education, you were viewed as average and not supposed to achieve.
You're being kind.
In best case. And then yet you were able to do something that maybe the force that they put on you there to be something you just were not.
Right.
Maybe when you're standing out on those streets and
free.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that just said, I will not go back to that lifestyle. I know I can do this. And I think the power of self-belief is, at the end of the day, I mean, you can move mountains and change society. So
I think at the end of the day, what you think about is what you become. If you literally think about something all the time, it will actually, you become that thing, whatever that thing is. I mean, Henry Ford said, if a person can do something or not, they're probably right. It's just about what you want to go do.
I love it. All right, folks, we're going to end the show this week. I said it was a remarkable story, and I'm sticking to it. And that is the POV of POB.